Hi, Judy.
Hi, Lisa. How are you doing today?
Great. I got my green glasses on this week. Last time we talked, I had my purple glasses.
And today you've got your purple top. So you could have worn either purple glasses or green glasses, but I like your green ones. They're really nice.
This past week I went out for barbecue. We were down in Austin, Texas,
Uh-huh.
and I don't remember the little place, but it was a super yummy Texas barbecue. And I wore my purple glasses and new purple earrings that I'm not wearing right now, and a purple jacket, and then a black shirt and blue jeans. And what did I wear for shoes? I don't remember. Anyway, I was very purple. Yes. And
I bet you look great.
well, everybody else was a bit more subdued and, kind of country and cowboy boots. And I felt a little flashy.
Did you? That sounds boring. Everybody in Texas dresses that way, so you were yourself.
Definitely not Texas. Yes. With myself.
So, yeah, so you had a good time, I take it.
I did. Yes, I did. So,
Awesome.
what was nice about being in Texas and staying with my sister-in-law was that I had some time to think about life and what's going on and what I wanted to talk about and all that good kind of stuff.
Oh,
And,
that thinking time is so valuable.
you don't get that. I don't
Mm-mm.
get that when I'm at home.
No.
So,
I don't get it when I'm at home, and the only person I have bothering me is my dog. As a matter of fact, I have no idea where she is right now, so she must be
hmm,
out in the rain. Is it raining? No, I don't think so.
it's kind of gray out there, but
It's
that's
gray, but I don't think it's actually raining. She came in once a couple hours ago and she was soaking wet, and I said, "You dummy, what are you doing out in the rain?" She just looked at me, so I went and got a towel and dried her off.
hmm.
One thing
Okay.
you can fix easily. So, what are we going to talk about today?
We are going to get kind of intellectual today.
Ooh, I like it.
So today, one of the things I thought, we've talked about this and that and the other thing. I thought, let's go back to basics today. And I wanted to talk about the something called the emotional triad. And it's
Okay.
something that before I became a life coach, I was absolutely unaware of.
Hmm.
And I thought there are probably a whole bunch of people out there, just like me, who are absolutely unaware of this thing called the emotional triad. So
I
let's
think
talk
you're
about it.
probably right. So how
And
did you learn about it?
well, I did. I learned about it in my life coach training, and when I learned about it, it was like, oh, this makes so much sense,
Hmm.
and you can really use it as a framework to base either your ability to change your behavior in habits that you want to discontinue,
Hmm.
or um, if you have some kind of goal that you want to achieve.
Hmm.
So
Or
I
a
thought,
dream. A
or
dream.
exactly,
Hmm.
exactly. So the emotional triad, it's basically looking at our brain and how we have how we were organized from way back when, like caveman times,
Caveman days. Yeah, that's a while. Mhm.
quite a while ago. And what's crazy is that even though we live in times that are very different than caveman times, the way our brain is organized and the basic building blocks of who we are and why we do what we do are pretty much still the same.
Yep, I think you're absolutely correct.
And unfortunately, some of the ways that our brains are organized have the sneaky potential of tripping us up on a regular basis
Hmm.
because times are so different now than they were back then. Way, way,
Hmm.
way, 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 way back then. So the emotional triad is imagine a triangle,
Hmm.
and the 3 points are avoiding pain,
Hmm.
seeking pleasure, and keep
Being efficient.
things very, very, very efficient. Exactly. So
Hmm.
the first one is avoiding pain.
Hmm.
We can really understand how that would have kept us um, living and reproducing in the way, way back. So we don't
Correct.
want to do things that cause us pain. Let's think about some things that might cause us pain. Working out, things like
Hmm.
that.
Hmm. Driving too fast.
when fast was a good thing to be in the way back times.
It wasn't available.
Right. So avoiding pain, our bodies say, ooh, working out, that's going to be painful. You probably don't want to do that. And it's easy for us to say, yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, that's real easy for me to say. But
Even
there's
though,
other kinds of pain. There's emotional pain. Like the reason that you want to treat people with respect and dignity and care is because you want to be able to interact in a positive way.
Mhm.
If you don't, if you're nasty to people, you get pain because they are unfriendly and don't want to be around you, and you suffer from loneliness and all of that. So that kind of pain matters too.
It does. It does. I mean, I would call that the social pain, because really we want to avoid that kind of pain, because in the history, if you weren't part of the tribe, if you got kicked out of the tribe, yeah, that was kind of a death sentence too.
That was nasty.
That was nasty. You couldn't really
Hmm.
get along all by yourself on your own. You
Hmm.
needed the group to provide food and protection. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
So the first part of the emotional triad is staying away from pain. So it can help
Hmm.
us, it can hurt us. The
Hmm.
other one is seeking pleasure.
Hmm.
It was a good thing when people found a yummy uh, patch of blueberries. Yeah, let's remember that. That was super awesome. That's going to give us
Hmm.
some good vitamins, some good nutrition. We need to come back here again. We need to do more of this because this is beneficial to us. We're
It's pleasurable, right?
we need to have lots of sex because we need to have lots of babies, because otherwise our species will like non-exist.
Hmm. Hmm.
Pleasure is very good.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, now we have access to almost unlimited pleasure. And I think,
Exactly.
that's really where the whole processed foods, over drinking, overeating, sugar consumption, all of that stuff. We just have so much, too much of a good thing that
Well, and I think sometimes that kind of pleasure actually contributes to pain. So we have to be sure we're clear about what role that's playing in the emotional triad. Because if you eat all those things and you continually eat all those things, you can become very, very ill. And so there's pain back again.
now I see what I think you're doing with that connection is you're going the next step higher. Instead of relying on that primitive brain that's organized by the emotional triad, you're getting more into the prefrontal cortex, and you're using our more of an adult brain, something that's more developed, something that we can use for planning and weighing consequences to
Did I
decide.
do all that?
You did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Whew, who knew?
So you're
Okay.
weighing consequences of behaviors instead of
Okay.
looking at the raw behavior themselves.
Okay.
Mhm. And that brings us to the third one. The third point of the emotional triad is being efficient.
Hmm.
It's one of those reasons why I think binging on Netflix and being a couch potato, why the laws of inertia come into play. Objects in motion tend to stay in motion. Objects at rest tend to stay at rest.
There you go. That's
Very
true.
efficient for us to rest, and our bodies like resting and just staying the same and doing what's familiar and the same.
And
It's
comfortable.
and comfortable. Yeah.
Hmm.
So anytime we're looking at um, habits,
Hmm.
can often go back to those three um, points and go, it really feeds into at least one of them.
Yes, I can understand that. Yep.
I mean, I've tried to use some examples as I was, identifying them, but really they're all for our basic survival.
Right.
And, we're pretty far past the need for just I mean, most of us in a northern, I mean, our North American, that's where we are, Midwestern, in our small little rural community, we're pretty
Hmm. We're pretty comfy.
Comfortable. Exactly. And
Mhm.
so when we're looking at how that serves us, it has served us. Where we start getting in trouble is when we start using that as an excuse for not moving forward in our lives.
Absolutely. And because it's almost, some of those things are almost, they're almost subconscious.
They
Um,
are. Mhm.
yeah, subconscious, uh, uh, what should I say? Unfulfilling
Motivations.
kind of, yeah, exactly. And by our clicking back to them, it's not that we're doing anything wrong, but what we're doing is we're not choosing something that really serves us in moving forward.
Yeah, yeah. I think one of the things that came to my mind was, and now I'm going to totally massacre this quote, and I have no idea where I heard it, who I heard it from, or what the exact words are. But basically, it is the road, the comfortable, familiar road to hell is easier to follow than the unknown heavenly road. Is that the way I mean to
I don't
say?
know the quote, so you could say it any way you wanted to, and I wouldn't argue with you, but that makes sense. Yep.
Something like the hell is easier to hang out in than the heaven that is part of the unknown. So
Mhm.
it's all saying that comfort is found in the familiar. What you just said. That's what you know
That's what triggered your thought.
triggered me. Yeah. And I
Okay.
we all are able to, and I think those habits of the familiar begin very, very early in our lives when
Mhm.
we are relying on that primitive brain for lots of our actions. It's just, hardwired kind of a thing.
Mhm. Well, and very small children, as a parent, they're useful because they keep our children from getting hurt or getting in trouble or that kind of thing. But once they're, 3, 4 years old, they're kind of inappropriate, because then now we're holding them
A little bit
back.
older than that, but I think still 3 years old is a bit young to have a lot of ability. Your prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed until I believe now the science is saying until you're like 26 years old.
Oh, mine's slow. Wow, really? That old?
Yeah, yeah,
Huh.
exactly. So there's still hope for my son out there, and don't give up hope because those mid to late 20s are kind of the thing when um yeah, sense starts to gel is what I've been told.
Is that any different for boys than it is for girls?
I don't know. That's something maybe we could look into.
We'll have to see.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
we can look at that emotional triad as why we are the way we are.
Mhm.
And I think it's fun to go, when we sit down and we do some kind of reflection or, looking at where we are and what we've been up to and things that have gotten us to this point, to look at the triad and go, huh, yeah, that really works here and it works there. And that's why I did that. But I think we can also use it to our benefit. We can align like habits and what we want to accomplish using this triad to help us overcome obstacles and maybe stay motivated on the things that we do want to do in our lives. We don't have to be, just running, with no consciousness, being driven by basic. I had a social worker in the school I worked in one time. She called it your lizard brain. Your lizard,
Yeah.
and you don't have to just be governed by that all the time. So we can
Right.
look at what our tendencies are, and we can use them as building blocks to help us be successful. Also,
Well, and sometimes feeling pain, you talked about the workout.
mm-hmm.
Some people say no pain, no gain. Well, that's probably again a little advanced thinking, but you can sometimes look at this and say, is maybe incurring a little bit of pain in this situation, is that going to help me get to where I want to go?
Yes, yes. So looking at that one, seeing the avoiding pain, you can use that as like fuel to break a bad habit. Is that
Exactly.
how I mean, so for example, one of the things right now I've been working on is I have very dry skin on my hands in the wintertime. And before I went on my trip, my hands were so dry and cracked and nasty that my thumbs, both of them, were bleeding.
Ouch. That
Mhm.
sounds awful.
And so while on vacation, I made a concerted and thoughtful effort to moisturize my hands and take care of them so that they would heal. Because I don't like that pain of that. And
Hmm.
so, in order to avoid pain, I had the emotional and the time wherewithal to do some focused attention on my hands
Hmm.
to take care of them to avoid the pain. So I was able, through reflection and using that prefrontal cortex, really make a decision and then act on it.
Fabulous. Did it work?
It did.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
look,
Look
there's
at
no blood,
you.
no blood on that.
Nice. No,
Yeah,
nice. Nice, nice, nice. Yeah, well, I think that's a really good point, is that I sometimes think that we need to recognize where our resistance is coming from,
right. Yes.
and what is holding us back from intellectually knowing what would work to help us to, fulfill a goal, or get closer to our dream or whatever. But first we have to be able to reflect on what is really causing us to
What's
do
going
what
on
we're
at
doing.
the base at that yeah, that foundation level.
Right, exactly. And sometimes I think about it, we weren't really cave people, but sometimes our parents plant little things to keep us safe, and so you start to do something and you hear this little uh, phrase, and it's kind of got your mom or your dad's voice, and you think, okay, that was then and this is now, and I need to be big girl, and I need to know that that doesn't really serve me anymore.
It doesn't. Exactly. So, and I think that goes hand in hand with the next one, with the seeking pleasure. I think
Hmm.
when you were talking about how exercise, or one of us was talking about how exercise can be painful, but I think we can also use that as anticipating the pleasure and marrying pleasure with the process can help
Hmm.
us get to a goal also. So
Hmm.
taking that example of working out, not only do we anticipate the pleasure of our changed body,
Hmm.
but I think we can also do it on a more specific level. Each day I go to the gym, I work out, I find it pleasurable, that endorphin rush. I get in the car and I get pleasure from that feeling of daily accomplishment.
Hmm.
And so I can kind of, you know, layer on pleasure,
Hmm.
looking for the pleasure in things that I know are good for me instead of just focusing on this is going to hurt, this is going to be hard, this is going to be,
Hmm.
I hate going to the gym.
Well, you can flip the coin, because you don't always have to be, you know, working on a Peloton, or, doing something of that nature. Sometimes if you say, oh, I get so sore when I do that, you can also choose to do a less stressful exercise to be sure you're walking every day,
But
because,
you want to know something? I love, I love that feeling
yeah,
of sore muscles. I love it. Do you like
good
it or not?
job. Oh, I hate it. I absolutely, I don't
Oh,
like, I don't
you
like
know,
to sweat. I don't like I mean, now, but I do love. Yeah, see, we have all different ways to play it. I love swimming to a very heavy degree, to where I get out of the pool and the muscles in my back are bright red because I've done so much strenuous exercise.
yeah.
But to do it like running, or um going really, really, really fast on a treadmill, that doesn't pop my cookie. But for me, I end up getting lame after doing that. So doing that in the water, I've been able to find a way. And again, I think we're talking to the higher processing steps of looking at, is the pain better, or is it really beneficial to increase the pleasure and choose an activity that isn't quite so
when,
rigorous?
when I sometimes like I'll take a different path and there might be some uphill parts to my walk. And the
Hmm.
next day my thighs, it was like sometimes I'll even like I'll I'll sit down in a chair more slowly to feel that because it's like, ooh, I had a good workout. I mean, yeah, I like that feeling. I like
You like pain, huh?
it. I don't know. It's not intense pain. It's not like, oh my God, I'm such pain. But or I was doing some workouts and my tricep was really sore the next day and it was like, ooh, I'm getting good arms. It's just like, yeah, I did
Well,
something
if it's
yesterday.
beneficial, I guess I don't so much call that avoiding pain. I call you that's increasing your pleasure because you
Yes.
enjoy the feeling of improving your body and all that kind of thing. So,
And it's
uh,
almost like just a little, tap saying you did something good for your body yesterday. Hey,
mhm,
you really, this was good for your arms yesterday. It made you stronger.
mhm.
So yeah, that little bit of pain actually um gives me a sense of accomplishment. It reminds me of a sense of accomplishment. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I think this becomes important if we've got someone that we're trying to help to improve their quality of life,
Mhm.
to let them know that they have an opportunity to shake things up. They don't always have to be looking for, the sitting on the couch. Yes, that's easy, but in a way, it may be
Mhm.
it may be pleasure now, but could be pain later, because there's always, the triad doesn't talk about consequences very much. Eh,
No, it's no, it doesn't. The triad doesn't talk about consequences at all. That's once again prefrontal cortex layering that on it.
Right.
And that's where we have the control.
Right, exactly. And I think, thank goodness, I'd hate to think that I had to live my life to look out for saber-toothed tigers and be sure to keep my child from getting eaten by a,
Whatever.
woolly mammoth or whatever. It's just not my cup of tea. So, the good Lord chose the right time and place to set me down here because it's much more pleasing to me.
Yes.
But I also think that we need to look at the triad when we look at our lives and say, okay, that was then, that was keeping us safe. That was really, really good information for us.
It was a good way for me to be when I was a child
Hmm. Lots of
and
benefits at that
lots of
point.
benefits. And now that I'm a grown ass woman, maybe not so much.
Well, and sometimes when you're going through a really rough time and you just think, oh, I don't know if I can handle this, stuff happens in our lives and
Mm.
it feels like pain, but when we work through it and take care of it and resolve it and go on to the next step closer to our goal, it feels pretty good.
Mhm.
So the pain part, not so much, but I think what I guess I'm trying to say is it serves a purpose sometimes.
Yeah.
And as long as it's not killing us or making us bloody, I think that we maybe need to look at it a little differently.
Well, and
I've,
I think
I've
we've talked a lot about the pain and the pleasure ones, but I think you're leading into the third one really smoothly. I think the most insidious one is that efficiency one, because I think that's where our whole podcast is geared towards ourselves and other people who don't want to be satisfied with the status quo, with just
Mhm,
living tomorrow exactly like I live today,
mhm.
and wanting to continue to change and grow and develop. And that's not necessarily the most efficient way to live. It can be messy and it can be painful and it can be scary and it can be, you can fail, but you can also laugh and find great joys. There are great highs and great lows and great stories to be told when you take that unusual or the less efficient path.
Well, I think that's true. And I think that one thing that we're all guilty of, I think everybody has their moments. I don't know if maybe I'm worse than others, but when you continually procrastinate on going toward your dream, you kind of have this attitude of, no big deal, I'll do it tomorrow. Well, how do you know you're going to have it tomorrow? And how do you know that when tomorrow comes, we aren't going to have an urgency or a tragedy or something else we have to deal with? So, what could be better than being efficient and doing it today? I remember I used to absolutely make my son furious with me because I'd say to him, "What is the definition of being successful?" And he'd say, "I know, mother, I know. It's doing the things you least feel like doing when
When
you least feel like
I
doing
do,
them." And I think that's kind of more of a definition of being efficient. And I've had this happen where I've had it happen a lot. Like, say I'm watching something on TV and I kind of start dozing on the sofa and I'm getting kind of tired and I think, oh, I didn't clean up the kitchen yet. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. And then I think, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. And then I think, no, I don't want to deal with that tomorrow. So I get up and I do, and I start the process, and it takes me very little time. But when I get done, I think, okay, now I can go to bed and get a good night's sleep. It's just weird, I had to be efficient even just for that little time, but I still had the temptation to say, put it off. And I think
yeah.
I think this is really becoming something that I'm much more aware of as I get older because, you know, I'll be 75 next month, and they say that the average lifespan for an American female today is 76. Now that scares the crap out of me. I mean, does that mean I've only got a year left? I mean, yeah,
Wow.
that's what it sounds like to me. And sure, there's people that live to be 100, but there's also people that, don't live past 70. And, my dad didn't live past 65. So it's something that I think
Mhm.
it's another vote for being present and saying, what do I need to do? What am I responsible to do? And I think that goes into the biggest one, which is what do I want to do right
Mhm.
now? And it doesn't include, I mean, I'm not saying you aren't supposed to relax. I think every day has to have a few minutes of relaxation. But I use relaxation as a reward. If I get this done, then I'll relax, and I don't make it too heavy a task because then you'd never relax, right? But I think that I guess what I'm trying to say is, shake things up, go in the right direction, move to the next place, get to where you can actually see your goal or your dream down there like a light in a train tunnel. You see it out there. And if you don't do anything today that gets you closer, you've kind of, it all counts. You've wasted another day.
It all counts. You
Hmm.
got that right, Judy. Yes, it
Hmm.
all counts.
Hmm.
And and the other thing I want to say is it doesn't, it all counts, yes, but that doesn't mean you need to despair because you're 75 years old, and I didn't achieve this dream or that goal. I still think, remember before the podcast, we were talking earlier this afternoon about it doesn't matter how fast you chase your dreams, but it's the idea of chasing the dream. And
Hmm.
I said, you can run towards the sunrise as fast as you want if you're going west and never see it.
Hmm.
But all you need to do is sit and turn around, be in
And
the
you'll
right.
see it.
and it will come to you. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So, and I think you want to evaluate that. What part of this dream is out there just waiting for me to take a couple of good steps? And, am I stopping when the dream is really in sight?
Mhm.
And it's just my hesitation that's holding it back? I think that's an evaluation that I know that
And I think that hesitation is exactly what we're talking about. That hesitation can be based on fear of pain, pursuing a pleasure, a right here, right now pleasure, or that efficiency, that maintaining the status quo.
Mhm,
You know?
mhm,
That's where that hesitancy comes in. And
mhm,
it's with the more, developed part of our brain. If you want to use it, sit down, and what you've so often talked about is having some time for reflection, writing
mhm,
down your thoughts,
mhm.
identifying what you want, where you want to go, what you want to see, what you want to do, who you want to be, so that you keep those in the forefront of your mind and you're not working on a three-pillared emotional triad that's keeping you in the status quo.
Exactly. I think maybe we have a big hairy dream out there that we want. And we think, oh, whoa, that's huge. Okay, what can I do today with what I have and where I am? And if it's even to write down a description of that dream and post it on the refrigerator, okay, that's one piece. Okay, now
Big
what can I
hairy
do the
dream.
next day?
I've got all kinds of visualizations going on in my brain there. A big hairy dream. Huh, a big hairy one. Okay.
Well,
Uh-huh.
I think it's important if somebody said to you, "What's your dream? What would you do that you would love to do?" I think it's important to know the answer to that.
Yes.
Because
Th-
if you don't even know the answer, if you don't know where you're going, how in the ding dong are you going to get there?
Yeah, there was a workshop I went to one time, and it was a very sneaky way of illustrating to people how little we do to accomplish our dreams. And the first thing the person did was you were supposed to pull out your journal and you were supposed to write down, it was like 10 minutes, write down everything you did yesterday, from
Hmm.
brushing your teeth to feeding the dog to driving to work, all of the things.
Hmm.
And then the next exercise was write down, your dreams, what things are really important to you. And it was there was probably some space of time between those two
Sure.
assignments. And then you were supposed to go back into yesterday's listing of all the things that you did. And you were supposed to highlight all the places that you could find that you were actually working on any part of your top three dreams.
Hmm.
And what was so fascinating is most people found that they worked on their dream exactly 0 times the day before.
Hmm. Hmm.
Zero.
Well, I think that's very common. And, that was the old Stephen Covey, 7 habits of highly we always say successful, but that's not the name of the
Effective.
book. It's 7 habits of highly productive people.
Okay.
And his whole philosophy was that we tend to keep ourselves in the quadrant of doing the urgent things. But the,
Mm.
the important things, you think, oh, I need hours to work on that. No, what
No,
one little thing can you
I
do
do
that's going to get
today.
you closer, and then
Mhm.
it maybe make the urgency not take so much time, don't overthink it. That's me. I said that. Don't overthink it. Isn't that funny?
Miles
Um,
debate. Yes. Mm.
that's our writing for this week is something we should let go of.
I did write that, yes. And I've
Do you,
started it. This week I was letting go of paper. And I said, I was talking to Michelle and I said, I've broken it down into steps. I have got I was thinking, like I said, I wrote this when I was in Texas. And so I wasn't able to do anything about it. I was just able to really chew on it for a while. And the thing that really bothers me is I have paper piles. all over the place. I got paper piles in the bedroom and in the dining room and on my computer desk, on the kitchen counter.
No pictures allowed of this desk because they are smothered in paper.
Okay, so I said what I'm going to do today is the only thing, the beginning point was collect it. Today I'm just collecting it.
Okay.
And so I got a bin. I used to collect all my papers in a bin. It's a big silver square, probably 15 by 15 inches. And I used to sit on a counter in my kitchen, but then it became a catch-all and it kept stuff. It didn't ever clean out. Well, I've resurrected that bin and I walked around the house and I collected all my paper clutter. Now I have next steps. The next step specifically is sorting my paper clutter, but even that was too big. So I figured what I would do is I would divide my paper clutter in two and I would sort it over the course of 2 sessions. So, but today, the only thing I had to do was to collect it. So
yeah, big step.
Big, huge. So anytime it felt too big, I would just kind of, how much smaller can I make this part of the task? And, so if in doubt, cut it in half and do just part of it.
Or cut it in 10 pieces, there's so many hackney things. How do you eat an elephant? How do you eat a whole stick of salami? How do you do this? How do you do that? One bite at a time. It's all you can do. If you are a family person, you can't devote the whole day to this project. So, now my problem is I did what you're talking about shortly after my husband passed away, and I order canned dog food from Chewy, and there's these little boxes that are just perfect for 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper. So I had, I think, 15 of those boxes. So I put them on the dining room table. Whoa! And I started sorting. And so I've got this one. Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, I'll show them to you when I see you later. And I sorted down, into all different categories. The only problem is that I stopped and I just could kick myself in the butt because I needed to then keep going and take each box individually, go through it, get rid of what needed to be gotten rid of, file what should be kept, and
be done.
And then throw the box away. But right now I've got a stack of boxes that have stuff in them.
15 boxes.
I think there's that many. We'll have to count them when you get here. I'm not sure how many, but there's a lot. And every time I order dog food for Quincy, I get one more. So then I get to fine sort even farther. Let's not talk about me anymore, okay?
Oh, well,
I like that letting go of paper though. For me, I'm writing about, I haven't finished it yet. Letting go of overthinking things. That's going to be challenging.
That's much more, mine was very concrete.
Yeah, it was. I like it. I wish I'd thought of it first. Oh.
But you didn't, I did. And so I'm working towards my goal.
Good job. Good for you. I think that's amazing. So, I think our discussion about the triad is really good for people to look at and to make sure that the limiting beliefs that they're being held back by are still relative to the circumstances they're living with today. That they aren't outdated and unuseful. Instead of letting them limit you, maybe you need to limit them and say, well, okay, now today I'm going to change that to say something just a little different. Just a thought.
Amen. Love it. And that's probably a good place to stop today, Judy.
Okay. We've been talking a while, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We just keep going. I think last week we went 45 minutes. Our
Did we
goal is
really?
to keep it a little tighter, closer to 30 minutes, even between 20 and 30. And we just keep creeping up on our time. So
Well, maybe we should talk about letting go of talking too long. What do you
no,
think?
no, that's not a good one at all.
Oh, well, this has been fun. I've enjoyed it. I
Beautiful.
know I used that word, but you used it a few times too, so I don't feel so bad.
All good. Okay. Love you, Judy.
Love you too. See you next week.
Okay, great. Bye-bye.
Bye. No, sometime. Maybe not next week. Bye bye.
Okay, bye.